Okay, so this video is going to show us how to edit two camera clips, video clips together that are two different types of files or two different sizes of files. So we've got one camera that was recorded at 720p and the other was recorded at 1080p. So the first thing we're going to do is get our footage into our video editing software. And there's two ways to do it. I'm on my laptop, so I actually just tried to do it this way. So here's your clip here, and then you can right click it and then say show package contents, and then this file actually is a package as well. You right click that, show package contents, and then your actual clips are in here into the stream, and you can see that these play individually. This particular camera records, I believe, every 10 minutes it creates a new file, although it's continuous recording, but it does create a new file every 10 minutes for whatever reason, probably to back it up. So you can try to import these into Premiere is what I'm using, and you can try. I just tried on my laptop and it crashed. They're really big files and they're hard to deal with, and Premiere doesn't really know what to do with it. If you got a really strong computer, my other computer can handle it, but this laptop cannot. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna export these, and let's see here. We're gonna export them as .mov files. So we're just gonna open the big package file with QuickTime. And then we're just going to go and we're going to go export 1080p. And then we're just going to name it, and then I'm going to hit save, and then we'll move on to the next clip and do the same thing. I'm not going to make a video for that one. I believe it's going to only give me the option for 720p. Let's just double check real quick while we're here. That doesn't matter. We can convert it once we get it into Premiere. Export, yes, 720 that's the only option it gives me. Now, you could export the other one at 720, but I'd rather convert this one in Premiere so that we have a nice 1080p video final product. So I'm going to start here, and the next portion will show us how to import this into Premiere and sync the two angles together. I just wanted to point out one more thing in the rendering of these videos before we start to edit. Sometimes when you do the export function, it doesn't work for one reason or the other. So another way to do it is simply to hit save, and it will just save it as whatever aspect ratio or resolution that you recorded it at as one file. So that's another way to do it. It takes about the same amount of time. So just in case it doesn't work when you export. Anyway, so we are all done here with QuickTime, except for the fact that I'm using it to make this screen recording, so I'm just gonna hide that. All right, now let's bring in our two camera angles. They are right here, and as you can see, one of these is camera one is 720, and camera one is 1080. Okay. So we're just going to drag and drop them in. You can import them if you want, or you can just do it like that. I like to keep everything in folders. So what we've got here is two different sizes of cameras. So let's right click and do a new sequence from clip. Now we've got a 1080 sequence here. Okay, now we're going to right click our sequence that we just made, and we're going to duplicate. Okay, and then let's just call that camera one, and come in here to camera one. Oh, by the way, I don't know if your screen looks like mine, but if you just simply do the editing layout, it usually starts with the projects down here. I don't know why, but I like it up here, so I just grab it and put it up there. Just a little tip for if you're following along. So now I've got camera 2 and camera 1. So let's get camera 2 out of the camera 1 sequence and put camera 1 in there. Okay, and it's going to ask if you want to change the sequence settings. No, I'm going to keep the same settings because it's at 1080, and you can see it's cropped. So then you're just going to simply right click and go to, scroll all the way down to scale to frame size. So now that is scaled up to 1080, and now we've got our 2 sequences here. So now the next thing that we are going to do is we're going to make a multi-camera source sequence, and we don't have to do it from the footage. We can actually do it from the sequences that we just made. So we're going to do create multi-camera source sequence, and you're going to use the audio. Another way to do it is to make a synchronized point and do it with the endpoints, but for this we're just going to do it with the audio. And we're going to hit OK. Okay, so now that's been created, and this here, this little icon means that it's a multicam source sequence. So we're going to right click, and then we're going to do make sequence from clip. Great, and then let's just call it Joe Davidian 2019 edit. We can always go back and rename that later. I'm going to close out some of these. Let's see here. Okay, great. So we've got our full show right here. Now, at this point, I would go and figure out which song I'm going to edit. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to show you the functionality here. So the first thing you need to do before you dive into editing this is you need to make sure that your keyboard is set up properly for multi-camera editing. So go over here to Premiere Pro and then click keyboard shortcuts. And obviously I have my own custom setup. It's based on the Final Cut Pro 7. That's what I learned on, so I'm not going to learn the Premiere shortcuts if I don't have to. But I've also customized them. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to assign your keyboard 1, 2, 3, 4 at the top above the letters, if you have a small keyboard like this, to cut to your camera angles. Now I've got it set for 4 camera editing. We've only got 2 here, so as you can see it's already set, but you basically just click right here and then you type the number 1 and then it will assign it to that, because I don't believe that it is pre-assigned to be able to do this. And then you want to hit OK. It might ask you to save, but I didn't change anything. So now we are almost ready to edit. I'm on my laptop again, so it can't really handle full playback. So I'm going to click right here. For one reason or another, it won't let me go less quality than 1/4. Your machine might let you go to 1/8 or 1/16, but 1/4 is what we're going to do. And then we're going to click the settings here, and we're going to click on multi-camera view. Great. So now that's going to give us over here on the left, we've got our 2 angles, and over here on our right, we've got the live angle, right? So we're just going to go through and do a quick little fake edit. So we can play and then switch between angles 1 and 2 as we see fit. Obviously, the more angles that you have, the more useful that would be. I mean, I think you can have up to 9 or 16, I don't know, a lot of different camera angles. And then after you go through, you might want to go in and add some nice little fades, transitions. It's on a Mac, it's Command T is a fade, a crossfade, and then you can have your nice little fades, and you can make them longer or shorter, however you see fit. So you got a nice long fade. And that's pretty much it. Once you're done with your video, you're going to want to trim the edges. I use the blade tool with the Final Cut keyboard layout. It's B, and then you just hold. You can edit the audio and video separately, or you can hold down Shift and it'll do both at the same time. And then you can just trim your edges. That's A to get to the selection tool. Good idea to learn all the different tools over here, and the shortcuts for them. The slip tool is very useful for, say, if you missed this edit. Let's say it was just a tad too early, it was off the beat. So then you're going to grab it, and then you can move the edit over. You can also go to, let's say you went to the wrong camera or something, you can go to the beginning of that cut and then edit right there without it playing as well. So aside from that, I think that's pretty much it, and all you're going to need to know to get going with this. You can mess around with titles, and there's all kinds of resources out there for that. I have a template made here already for this particular client. You can see I've got this, which for a previous performance, and we'll grab that, and since it's already made, and put it over at the end, so that way it's consistent with all my performances. It always looks the same. But we can go over that in a later tutorial. The last thing for this tutorial is how to get this out into the world, out of Premiere. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the beginning, maybe put some nice fades at the beginning and the end so it fades in, so it's not too jarring. And we're going to hit I for endpoint, and then we're going to go to the end, and we're going to hit O for outpoint. And that is the selection that we're going to export. And on Mac, it is Command E to export. You want to be selected down here in this area. You want to make sure this is the last place you clicked before you export. Otherwise, you might have some troubles actually exporting. Now, there's also ways to batch export if you do multiple videos at the same time. It works in a similar way. Won't go into that now. But you just hit Command E, and then it's going to give you all kinds of crazy settings, and we don't have to go through them right now. I like to do H.264, which is a type of MPEG-4, so I understand. If I'm wrong and you're watching this, then just write a negative comment, and I will thank you for it later. But H.264 or MPEG-4, I always use H.264 just because, and then you don't have to mess with any of the settings. You want to just keep it, it's already set to 1080, the frame rate's already the same as what we shot, and the only thing that you do want to mess with is come down here to your, see if I can make this where we can read a little better. I guess not. The bitrate settings. This is the quality. At 1080, if you go less than 5, you're going to start to notice some pixelation. 5 is the lowest you would go. If you can stand it. 2 if you really have to make it small, but as you can see as I'm moving this here, the estimated file size is changing, right? So the way that bit rates work would best be asked to somebody else, but the way I understand it is you've got your target bit rate, but then it goes up and down based on how many colors and what's going on and how much light is in the video. So it can stay in a range actually if you want it to. I just usually keep it the same just for consistency across the entire video. But I usually do 5, or if I'm making this to edit in another project, you probably want to do the max or use a different file type. But 5 is a good place. As you can see, it's still a pretty big file, 302 megabytes estimated. And then you're going to want to choose your location. To do that, you click on the output name, and then just choose where you want it to go, hit save, and then you hit export. And there you go. That is pretty much it. If I missed anything, just give me a call, ask me.